Mom said, "We're doing Thanksgiving with just the well-behaved kids. Yours can skip this year." My daughter started crying. I texted back, "Understood, I'll cancel my card for the event." They kept laughing, sending selfies at the table, totally unaware of what was about to happen next. The text came in while I was folding laundry. No hi, no context, just a single sentence from my mom that made me freeze. "We're celebrating Thanksgiving only with children who behave well. Your daughter can skip it this year." I stared at the screen, rereading it a few times, hoping I was missing something, some typo, a joke. But no, it was clear. That was it. Ava was sitting cross-legged on the floor next to me, cutting shapes out of construction paper. She was making paper leaves for the thankful tree they were doing at school. She held one up to me and said she was thankful for Grandma's cookies, and then she looked up and saw my face. She asked if Grandma was coming for Thanksgiving. I told her no. Then, without even meaning to, I showed her the text. She read it, didn't say anything at first, then she asked if she had done something wrong, and then she just started crying. Quiet at first, like she was trying not to be a burden about it, and then harder. That's the moment something in me flipped. Didn't feel like anger, felt like something deeper, a kind of permanent understanding that once you see it, you can't unsee it. My parents never wanted her. They never tried, and maybe they never wanted me either. Not really. Just the version of me that didn't question them, the one who went along with everything, the obedient daughter, the one who kept giving. I didn't respond right away. I sat with Ava until she calmed down, and then I went to my room, shut the door, and texted back, "Understood, I'll cancel my card for the event." Because yeah, that whole Thanksgiving dinner, the turkey, the catering, the wine, the little herb centerpieces my mom pretended she arranged herself, all of it was on me. I've been covering it for the last 3 years without ever asking for credit. I made good money as a consultant and didn't mind helping out. But suddenly, the fact that I had paid for every single holiday while my parents picked favorites, it made me feel like an idiot. I canceled everything. Every dish, every delivery, every service. No notice, no explanation, just shut it down. I didn't say anything else to them. On Thanksgiving morning, I made pancakes with Ava, and we stayed in pajamas all day. Around 11, the group chat started lighting up. Photos of the table settings, everyone dressed up. My mom posted a pic of the empty dining room with a caption like, "Just waiting on the feast." They still hadn't figured it out. Then came the selfies, my brother Ben grinning next to my dad, both of them with beers. My sister-in-law doing a boomerang of her and my mom clinking glasses. They sent one where they toasted to "family that behaves." The caption was obvious and cruel. No one noticed yet that the food wasn't coming. I didn't respond, just kept my phone on silent and let them enjoy the illusion. At 2:45, Ben texted, "Hey, was the food supposed to come later this year, or—" And a few minutes later, my mom said nothing showed up. She's freaking out. I didn't say a word. I didn't have to. That night, Eva and I ate simple turkey sandwiches from the deli down the street and watched The Princess Bride under a blanket. It was probably the most peaceful Thanksgiving I'd had in years. But that was just the beginning. Because what my family didn't know yet, what was quietly unraveling behind the scenes, was that the house they were sitting in, drinking wine and laughing in, was no longer really theirs. And soon they were going to need help badly. The first sign came on Monday after Thanksgiving. I was in a meeting when Ben called twice in a row. I didn't pick up. Then came a text from Ben, "Hey, are you free to talk? It's important. Nothing to do with Thanksgiving." I ignored it. An hour later, my mom called, then my dad, then Ben again. It was like they suddenly remembered I existed and not just to pay for dinner. That night, I finally checked my voicemail. The message was from my mom, and she sounded off. Not angry, not cold, just tired. She said they had a situation with the bank and needed to discuss some temporary help because of an issue with the mortgage. That was all she said, but I already knew what it was about. 3 months earlier, I'd gotten a letter at my house addressed to them. It was from a credit union I'd never heard of. At first, I thought it was a mistake, but when I opened it, I realized it was about a loan, one they'd co-signed with Ben for a car, a brand new BMW. The letter said they were behind on payments, and the property used as collateral was their home. I had called my mom about it when it first arrived. She brushed it off, said it was handled, and that I shouldn't worry. I let it go. I shouldn't have. By the time they reached out after Thanksgiving, it was clear nothing had been handled. The loan had gone into default. The bank was initiating proceedings to seize the house unless the debt was settled within 30 days. I didn't answer them right away. I sat on the information for 3 days while they kept calling, texting, trying different angles. My dad sent me a long message about how family sticks together and how they knew I wouldn't let something this small ruin everything. Small. That's what he called it. Losing the house my parents had lived in for 27 years. The one I grew up in. The one they had used as collateral for my brother's second car in 2 years. Meanwhile, they had treated Eva like she was some stranger they were forced to tolerate. It's weird the mental gymnastics people will do when they've convinced themselves they're never in the wrong. My parents genuinely didn't see a connection between what they had done to my daughter, to me, and the fact that I no longer felt obligated to save them. But in the end, I did help. That's the part I still think about sometimes. I wired the money directly to the credit union and sent them proof of payment. I didn't tell them I had done it. I let them sweat it out a few days longer, and then the letter from the bank arrived saying the foreclosure process was being withdrawn. That's when they called again, all smiles and gratitude. Mom even said she wanted to take Eva shopping for Christmas, like none of it had ever happened. I wanted to believe they had changed. I really did. Maybe I needed to believe it. So I let Eva go with her, thinking maybe this was a turning point. It wasn't. Because what happened next confirmed something I had always tried not to believe, that my daughter was invisible to them, and they didn't even care to hide it. They picked Eva up for the shopping trip on a Sunday afternoon. She was so excited she wore her little sparkly boots, even though they gave her blisters. She kept checking the window, making sure she didn't miss them pulling up. I almost called it off last minute. I didn't trust it. The sudden shift, the way my mom was all warm and smiley again, like she hadn't said what she said just days before. But Eva had already packed a small bag with her allowance money and a list she made for gift ideas. She even drew a little heart next to Grandma's name. So I let her go. I told myself maybe they were trying, that maybe the house scare had opened something in them. They were gone for 4 hours. When she came back, she didn't say a word. Just walked straight to her room and shut the door. My mom barely made eye contact when she dropped her off. Said the mall had been too crowded to find much. Then she left like she couldn't get away fast enough. I knocked on Eva's door, sat with her on the bed, and asked how it went. She handed me a paper bag with one small keychain in it. A little rubber snowman. That's all they bought her. I asked if something happened. She shrugged, said no, said she was tired. But later that night, I found her crying into her pillow. Not loud, just quiet, stifled sobs. She finally told me what happened. They hadn't gone shopping for her. They had taken her to the mall to buy gifts for her cousins, my niece, my nephew, and my brother's new baby. Eva watched them pick out outfits, toys, and even a gold bracelet for the baby to grow into. When she asked if she could get a small toys, my mom told her, "You're not getting anything. We already spent too much." She said my mom kept talking about real grandkids while they shopped. She didn't understand what that meant at first, but when they sat down at the food court, I heard my dad say, "Well, at least we don't have to worry about her acting out in public this time." She didn't cry in front of them. She didn't ask questions. She just kept quiet until she got home. I didn't sleep that night, not out of anger, out of this cold, hollow grief. I didn't know how to explain it. It hit me then that this wasn't going to change. There was no turning point, no moment where they would suddenly see her the way I saw her. It didn't matter what I paid off or how much grace I gave them. They didn't love her. They never had.
I didn't say anything to them right away. I let them think they'd gotten away with it. I waited because, at that point, it wasn't about getting even. It was about making a clean break, one they wouldn't see coming. And when they came back to me, and I knew they would, I'd finally be ready. 2 weeks before Christmas, my dad showed up at my door without warning. No call, no text. Just knocked like he used to when I was still living under his roof and didn't have a choice but to answer. I opened it because I wanted to see his face. I wanted to see if he looked ashamed. He didn't. He smiled like nothing had happened, like Thanksgiving was just a little misunderstanding and Eva's mall trip had gone beautifully. He even asked how the little one was doing, like he couldn't remember her name in the moment. Then he got to it. He said they needed help again. I said nothing and waited. Apparently the house wasn't the end of it. The BMW they bought Ben had racked up some fines, toll violations, unpaid tickets, and insurance issues, all in my dad's name. And now the DMV was threatening to suspend his license unless the balance was cleared immediately. He said it wasn't Ben's fault, that the notices went to an old address, that the system was unfair to families who fall on hard times. I just kept looking at him. He said it would only take a few $1,000s, that I had helped before and they were so grateful. He even joked that I should consider it an early inheritance. That was it. That was the exact moment it happened, when I felt something snap so cleanly inside me it was almost peaceful. I told him no. Not I'll think about it, not let's talk later, just no. He blinked, confused, like the word didn't make sense coming from me. Then he got quiet and said, "We're family, Grace. You don't turn your back on family." I asked him, calmly, if Eva counted as family. I watched the way he didn't answer right away, the way he shifted, looked down, tried to move the conversation forward without acknowledging the question. That silence told me everything. I stepped outside and closed the door behind me so Eva wouldn't hear. I told him that this was the last time we were going to have this kind of talk, that he and Mom needed to stop pretending they hadn't spent the last 10 years making sure my daughter knew she was an outsider. He said I was twisting things, that I was too sensitive. I didn't argue. I didn't yell. I just told him to go. He stood there for another 10 seconds, like he was waiting for me to change my mind. I didn't. He walked off without saying goodbye. A day later, my mom sent a text, one line. "We always knew you'd punish us for not loving your mistake." I stared at it for a long time. They never said it outright before, never called Eva that. But there it was, in writing, undeniable, the quiet rejection they'd been delivering for years, finally spelled out like a full confession. And for the first time in my life, I blocked my parents' numbers without hesitation. Every number, every social. I blocked Ben and his wife, too. I shut it all down because this time it wasn't a break. It was permanent. After I blocked them, there was quiet for almost 2 weeks. It was strange at first, the silence. No texts, no guilt-laced voicemails, no passive-aggressive posts on Facebook about ungrateful children. I kept expecting something to slip through. A letter, a knock, a mutual friend trying to mediate. But nothing. It wasn't peace, not yet, just a pause. And then, just after New Year's, the silence cracked. It started with my aunt, my mom's sister, calling me from a number I didn't recognize. I let it go to voicemail. She left a message saying that she didn't want to get in the middle, but that my parents were not doing well and that I should have some compassion. She didn't know about the text. She didn't know what my mother had said about Eva. That word mistake still echoed in my head like it was branded into something. I didn't call her back. Then came an email from Ben. Just 3 words in the subject line, "We need help." I didn't open it. But 2 days later, I did get a letter, handwritten from my mom. It was 5 pages long. Most of it was filled with long-winded explanations. Not quite apologies, more like excuses dressed up in sentiment.
Then, near the end, she finally said what it was really about. The house was still in trouble. The payment I'd made before hadn't fixed the bigger issue. Apparently, there was a second mortgage I didn't know about, and the bank had started proceedings again. This time, there was no 30-day delay. They had already missed too many deadlines. The house was going up for auction in 45 days, and she wanted me to save it. She wrote that the house was our legacy, that it was where I grew up and where Eva could one day bring her own family, that I shouldn't let my emotions cloud my judgment, that she hoped I'd be bigger than this. I read the letter twice. Then I folded it up and put it in a drawer, not to keep it, just because I didn't want Eva to see it in the trash. That night, I sat Eva down. I told her we wouldn't be seeing Grandma and Grandpa anymore. I told her that some families don't always treat people the way they should, even when they say they love them, and that it's okay to walk away from people who keep hurting you, even if they share your blood. She asked me if she had done something wrong. I told her no, that the only thing she ever did was exist, and that sometimes that's enough to scare people who can't love properly. She didn't cry. She just nodded and asked if we could do something special for dinner. I said yes. We made spaghetti. We put whipped cream on store-bought brownies. We watched a movie and stayed up too late for a school night. And while she slept, I finally felt it. That quiet I'd been waiting for. It had arrived. 3 weeks before the house was scheduled for auction, they showed up. Both of them. I hadn't seen my parents in person since the last conversation with my dad on the porch. And now, here they were, standing at my front door like it was still 2007, and they had the right to walk into my life unannounced. I didn't open it. I watched through the peephole for a moment. My mom was holding a folder, probably filled with documents or estimates or whatever paperwork they thought would convince me to play savior again. My dad looked old. I waited. They rang the bell again. Knocked. Then my mom called out my name through the door. That's when Eva came down the hallway. She asked if she should open it. I told her no. Just like that. No long explanation. No need. I walked her back upstairs and turned on some music in her room so she wouldn't hear. By the time I came back down, they were still outside. So I opened the door, just the screen. Before either of them could speak, I said one thing. You can stop asking. It's over. My mom tried to say something about the bank, about how I didn't understand the full picture, how they'd taken steps to fix things. My dad kept quiet this time, just stared at the ground like he already knew how this was going to end. I told them I didn't care what the steps were. I reminded them that they were willing to let my daughter feel like garbage so they could keep pretending we were still a perfect family. I told them I had tried, that I had helped when I shouldn't have, that I gave them every chance, and they used all of it, every dollar, every bit of trust, to hurt the one person who had never done anything to them except be born to the wrong parent. They didn't argue with that. Not because they agreed, because they knew there was no comeback this time. My mom asked me if I would at least consider letting Eva write letters someday so she doesn't forget us. I looked her in the eye and said, "You made sure she'll never forget you." Then I shut the door. The house sold exactly 19 days later. I didn't watch the auction, didn't check the listing. I only knew the date because my mom had scribbled it in the corner of the letter she'd sent. They moved in with Ben last I heard, which made sense. He was always their favorite. Maybe now he could be their lifeline too. Eva didn't ask about them anymore. Not even once. I never told her everything. Not all the ugly pieces, just the truth she needed, that we don't let people keep a place in our lives just because we share DNA. That love is proven, not owed. Sometimes I still get tempted to check on them. I never do. because for once I didn't just close the door, I locked it, and I threw away the key.